Hello and welcome back to the Weekly Woo for December 15th to December 21st, 2025. And holy cow, we are at the mid-month of December 2025 already. Like, it's really going by quite fast. Anyway, so this week we do have an ultra busy week. And so first of all, I'm going to just jump in with the planetary shifts, and we'll go through that quickly, and then the overshadowing energies as well. Okay, so on the 15th of December, we will have Mars entering into Capricorn, and she's a happy camper in Capricorn. It is in its exalted sign, so it will function quite well there, so that's a good thing. Okay, and moving on, and we will have on December 19th our new moon in Sagittarius at 28 degrees. And just note that this is hitting very, very, very close to our galactic center, because our galactic center is at 27 degrees Sagittarius. And so they're just sitting like right there holding hands, kind of powering and charging each other up. So that's kind of cool. So on December 21st, we will have the sun entering into Capricorn, and that will be welcoming in Capricorn season. And happy birthday to all the Capricorn folks out there, okay? So that will pretty much wrap up our planetary shifts for the next several days. And our overshadowing energies are basically our retrograde planets, which we only have a couple now. And so we have Jupiter in retrograde, and we have Uranus in retrograde. Chiron too is retrograde, but it is a asteroid, not a planet. But we'll make a mention, an honorable mention of her. Okay, and so I just want to double check, make sure I didn't miss nothing there. Yeah, so we're in a 2-planet retrograde. So every time we have more planets stationing direct, that means the faster time and the smoother things will go forward in life. So things pick up the pace, things move forward in a little bit of fashion. And so just note that Uranus and Jupiter will not station direct motion until into 2026, okay? So that will take care of that part. And I'm going to try to cut down the recording time because I get way too winded with this stuff. I can just talk and talk and talk. So looking at this basic week, we do have a general flow. It's a problem. This is really a high conflict week. It's very, very challenged. She's a bit of a rough ride this week, so kind of tighten the seatbelt and hang on and choose your battles wisely. If it's not worth your time or effort, let it go in one ear, out the other. Don't get involved. Basically, don't engage in conflict or fights because it's not going to take you anyplace good this week, okay? So we are mostly all negative aspects this week. So we have 13 negative aspects with one positive aspect, which happens to be a trine. So the other thing I want to point out, and I like to describe it as being boxed in by squares on each end of the week. So we are technically boxed in by 2 Saturn squares. And so both Mars and Saturn are considered our malefic planets, and they mean business, and they're kind of rough around the edges, and they will hold tight. And they always make things a little difficult, okay? So they will make you take your responsibilities, and they are, the task managers, the life lessons learners, right? And Saturn is our lord of karma, and Mars is our god of war, right? So that's what we have going on here. So we do have a lot of Mars activity, but like I said, we are boxed in by 2 Saturn squares, one on each end. So we'll have a Saturn square on the 16th, and we'll have another Saturn square on the 21st. Okay, Mars isn't too bad, but it does come with challenging aspects, but no major negative aspects like an opposition or square, so that does help, okay? So each and every day, we have a week that's crazy with altering plans, adjusting plans, things are not going to align. So be flexible, be light on your feet, be light in the saddle, because probably on a daily basis, if not hourly basis, your plans are going to change from day to day. Is it annoying? Yeah, it is. Is it the end of the world? Not really. Just be very flexible, and do keep a sense of humor, and do make it a pay it forward week, because this week is not going to flow equally for everybody. Like I said, she's a bit of a rough ride, so kind of hang on to the saddle horn. Okay. Like I said, we are right full of quintiles. We have, let me see, I think we have 5 squares this week, which is a lot, okay? We have 1 trine, that's a good one. So, and then the rest are all those negative minor hiccup aspects that create havoc with our daily plan. So we are rightful of that from one end to the other. So just heads up, and keep a sense of humor and don't engage in conflict. So do expect challenges to arise, take it in stride, roll with the punches as best you can. And so when we're looking at Saturn squares, that pretty much is authority figure energy, okay? So that's like governing bodies, that can be bosses, that can be supervisors, that can be right down to political leaders, global leaders, anybody who would be considered an authority figure to you. So that can be, personal, that can be business career, that can be in society, like I said, leaders. So those are public authority figures we can probably expect to show up in the news headlines or something going on there. So, and it's quite battle weary, right? And so we also are going to have a bit of a Uranian energy, and that's going to hit around the weekend. And so Uranus is unexpected, shock, surprise, unexpected events and people. So that's basically going to create unexpected changes in plans or altering plans and having to realign plans because something out of the blue comes in and we have to shift our plans, even if it's so much as changing your mind, okay? Okay, so we have sesquiquadrates, we have quintiles, so we have semi-sextiles. That's really, really annoying energy. In conjuncts, biquintiles. What else do we have? I think the only annoying minor aspect that we don't have is a semi-square, but we have a little bit of everything other than that. So it's an aggravating, irritating week full of contentiousness. It's a pick a fight week as well. We got that hanging around here. And that can be very tension-based, irritation-based, being aggravated, and a lot of it can be based upon confusion. So just know fact from fiction before you say anything, and better yet, just don't bother, don't engage, don't take part. Okay, so it's one of those weeks, I kind of hate to say this, but it is what it is, and the good thing about it is you have a heads up, so you know what's coming, and so act and respond accordingly and appropriately, right? And we'll always look after what's in your best favor for yourself and for others. Okay. And again, don't engage and get involved in conflict or areas that do not belong to you. That is none of your business. So that will probably knock off about 75% of the problems right there. Okay? Know what belongs to you, but doesn't. Okay. So moving on. So we don't have a bulletproof day that's really ideal, but the best day of the whole works out of this whole week is going to be the 18th, and that's where we have the Venus trine Chiron, okay? So that's about your best day. The rest is just kind of like a scattered mess everywhere, okay? And so I do want to talk about, speaking of scattered, being all over the place, we do have a lot of mutable energy. We have a 4-planet stellium in Sagittarius energy. And Sagittarius energy is energetic, it's enthusiastic, it's good-natured, it's good-humored, but it will certainly implement healthy, fiery, respectable boundaries. And remember, every fire sign does carry its temper and its temperament. Okay, so we do have a lot of Sagittarius energy, 4 planets sitting there, and just about every planet that we have is quite active this week. So so when I say mutable, it means it wants you to scatter you here, and it wants to scatter you there, and you want to do this, you want to do that, you'll be here, you'll be there, you'll be all over the place. It likes to have many irons in many fires, and so as nice as it is to be flexible and be able to have the ability to adapt and go here and change and do this and do that, that can become a problem when you start 200 things and you finish absolutely nothing. So, and not only can it be a lack of finishing things, it can be very, very exhausting, and you can be running in circles like the hamster in the hamster wheel, go, and you're totally played out by the end of the day, and you've actually got absolutely nothing accomplished, okay? So I will put out there that it's that scattered mutable energy with Sagittarius, and so just be on your money, be on your mark, and be very, very aware of this, because you can go no place fast. Put a lot of effort, a lot of work, a lot of energy into something and produce zero results, okay? So just stay focused and avoid overcommitting. That's another problem that can go with that sign too. Okay, and so the other thing I want to talk about is also we have a stellium, and that will be in Pisces energy. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because now we have 2 stelliums in 2 signs that are both mutable energy. And so we are like probably several planets sitting in mutable signs. And so that just horrendously amplifies and charges that mutable energy. Like it's just crazy off the wall being scattered here, scattered there, all over. So not only do we have Sagittarius mutable energy, we have Pisces water mutable energy joining it. And so that's going to amplify that I'm going to be here, there, do this, do that, and probably 10 times get absolutely nothing done and be very, very played out. Okay, so, prioritize your tasks, your responsibility, things that have to be done now, like, certain and priority obligations and responsibilities. And what doesn't have to be done, toss in the back scene, because if you don't make that task list or that responsibility list or that obligation list, what's going to happen is you'll have everything started and everything that you wanted to get done by the end of the week is just not going to happen. Okay. All right. Again, we have many, many, many more negative aspects, 13 negative aspects, 1 positive aspect. Again, boxed in by 2 scores. So it's a lot of problems. It's a lot of contentiousness. It's things that are just going to go sideways or not going to work out well for this week anyway. So again, take it as it comes, choose your battles, and just know the good thing about this week will pass. Okay. So that's a good thing. And again, it's a really, really good week to, if you can, do a lot of grounding techniques, listen to good music, go for walks, be outdoors if you can, gentle exercise, listening to, singing bowls, doing anything that's very calming and stops the overstimulation of the nervous system, right? And if you're around negative people, negative energy, which is the very, very a high percentage of that's going to go on this week, make sure you decompress and get rid of any and all negative energy. Purge it as needed, and that's probably, unfortunately, going to be a couple times a day. So do stay hyper-focused on the positive, and that will certainly help. And don't engage in things that don't belong to you. That will really amplify a better week than what it has potential to be the way it is, if things kind of a runaway, okay? And actually, that's a good term. This week can be a complete and total runaway if you're not on the ball, okay? So be very aware of what's going on, what needs to be done, what's your business, what's not, and don't get involved in things that don't belong to you, okay? Okay, so again, that Uranus is sitting at that 28th degree in Taurus. It does not like being there, and it's nearing that 29th crazy chaotic degree known as the anaretic degree, okay? We do have Saturn, Neptune. We have Neptune sitting at the 29th degree of Pisces. And so they'll call the crisis the chaotic degree, the anaretic degree. So again, that's another influence that's going to try and make things go very, very sideways. And when I say sideways, don't take it as, everything's going to go downhill, because this week will affect everybody so differently. But it's really kind of like a bit of a challenge, even on a lower realm scale, right? On the minor part, it could be just like, I'm overwhelmed, I need to do this, I need to do that. But is it the end of the world? No. But if you're, perhaps just as an example, a global leader, something going very, very sideways with their job, stripping of their title, getting caught doing something that they shouldn't be doing, it can have that very degree of kind of nastiness or a heavy, heavy conflict around it, or problems or troubles, or being stripped of a title, stripped of a status, those kind of things. So it's varying degrees. Like, it's not going to affect everybody the same, but it's not going to be smooth. For even if on the minor hiccup, it's still not going to be a smooth week, okay? All right. And so we are going to be okay, and what else do I want to talk about here? We are going to jump into the areas where we're going to be having focus on certain topics, themes, and areas to be looking at. Okay, so because we have so much Sagittarius energy, again, we have, what do we have? We have 4 planets. Now I'm talking about our full moon in Sagittarius too. So it's a luminary, but I'm going to count it because we actually have, we have the sun, we have Venus, we have Mercury, and we have the moon hanging around in that Sagittarius energy. So we're going to be, actually, this is a really solution-oriented, you're going to have problems that come up, but with those problems that come up, you're going to be looking for answers, solutions, and resolutions. So that's a good thing too. So solutions, and this can hover around international connections or communications or foreign cultures, foreign people with foreign cultures. So teaching, learning, so you might be taking courses, You might be enrolling in courses, and you might actually even be the teacher. Who knows? And learning something from someone or from some content or reading material, and expanding your horizons. Because you know what, Sagittarius loves to do that, and that's her job. She loves to grow. She loves to expand, and that's where lots of times you can see the teaching and learning and international connections in life will definitely expand your life. So you might be looking at doing projects or jobs or changing jobs or careers or anything to do that would, further expand anything in your life that's going on. So apply that accordingly, but you're going to be taking on more or looking at taking on more in life or wanting to do more. Again, creative projects, ideas, expanded communications, anything like that, or anything to do with creative expression, anything like that. So expanding horizons, that will apply differently for everybody. And so this is also about adventures, going on adventures, being in adventures with adventurous people, and long distance travel. So Sagittarius, along with international connections and international languages communication, comes with long distance travel. So some of you might be talking about going on a vacation. You might actually be booking a vacation. And if that's the case, you might even have problems and hiccups with booking that vacation because it's that kind of week. Or you might actually be on vacation right now. That's a long distance away from wherever you're home. So this can also include writing, publishing. So whether it's poetry, whether it's songs, or you're just journaling, okay, that'll be writing, publishing areas in any way, shape, or form. And again, speaking. So you might be doing speaking or speaking at events. That can take place as well. And this is also a really cool house and the Sagittarius energy of church, spirituality, religion, philosophy, ethics. Now, ethics can be really, really high on the totem pole this week. So ethics, anything to do with political realm, political people, political status, okay? Ethics in any way, and something to do with your in-laws if you're married. You might be some in-law subject matter coming up there as well. Okay, and you might even be looking into foreign cultures or studying foreign cultures, okay? Like that always reminds me like foreign exchange students or programs or those kind of things. And this can also be the good luck and good fortune area as well. And some of you, this can touch in the human resources area as well as truths, huge truths coming out, and it can include law and legal matters, okay? Spirituality, religion, and that can include occult or esoteric areas, those kind of things as well. So apply it accordingly. That's a different story for everybody. It's a different interest for everybody. Okay, and so this will also include around business, work, job. So again, that can be personal, that can be global. Again, title, status, anything to do with a publicly being seen, like on like a leadership role, to do with politicians or any, country leader, something like that. Father figures, and that can be dad, or it can be anybody who would represent a father figure in your life. And authority figures, again, I touched on that already. So any type of authority figure, that can include law enforcement too. Judges, courts, lawyers, anybody who would have any sort of a legal affiliation or legal counsel, something like that. And again, global leaders, apply that accordingly. And I'm sure we are going to see a massive amount of chaos going on in the global realm because it's that kind of week, and it's going to be mixing with restrictions, law, limits, authority figures pushing their weight or getting into trouble. It's going to be a major, where the lid blows off the pot that's been boiling for, the pressure cooker lid blows off the pressure cooker. It's that kind of week, right? So whatever has to come to light, whatever needs resolving, fixing, or acknowledgement, she's going to be surfacing this week. Okay. And this will also include discipline and responsibility. So those things are going to have to be put in place. And that's probably an okay thing because we have so much mutable energy. So it's kind of, when mutable energy, like that's kind of a runaway. And we have that just amplified over and over and over again this week. So the runaway energy where it's just here, there, all over, and nobody gets anything done. So when we have the 10th house and the Capricorn and Saturn showing up, that is really, it's time structured. It's about discipline, taking responsibility, putting obligations that are number one priority in line, and time and timing. So time might be of the essence, timing, or even scheduling, right? And structure and strategy. So that's kind of the lord of that kind of stuff. Everything must be structured. You must have a strategy. Everything must be in order, and it kind of cracks the whip. Saturn, it cracks the whip. And it's our teacher in life, and it means business, okay? None of this willy-nilly and dilly-dally. That does not fly with Saturn and the aspects it's in and the energies it's in. Okay, and again, so this can be public reputation. So again, that's going to hang around. That could be even what your job or your job title or your status is as well as a person in your job career field. Again, very, very amplified on the global scale. And that comes with some troubles and or some public kind of focus on that. So it could be like an authority figure being in trouble, caught doing for something they shouldn't be doing, or you can be the authority figure kind of handing the shit where it belongs, or putting in people in places where they belong, or implementing integrity and respectable boundaries. So apply that accordingly. That's going to kind of be a different story for everybody. So either you could be the authority figure laying down the law, or somebody, the law might be laying down the law to the authority figure in a public or global setting. So apply that accordingly. Okay, and so again, here we go into the 12th house, because that's a lot of Pisces. Pisces rules the 12th house. So again, things going on behind the scenes, okay? So that's private, that's hidden, it's secret areas. And so that kind of stuff can come to like a boiling point where it explodes, or somebody finds out, or somebody's got some trouble, somebody gets caught doing something they're not supposed to be doing in the behind the scenes that nobody was supposed to know about, right? And we see a lot of that lately. Okay, and so this is also the area of rest and retreat and recharge. It's about dreams, dream time, astral dreaming, and it can be lucid dreaming, and it can even be teleportation dreaming. So if you do dream, you do remember your dreams, do jot it down, do keep a dream journal, document your dreams, okay? This is the subconscious mind, and this is about our inner psychology and our inner work, okay? So that shadow work that we need to take a look at and we need to work on. So that is very, very highlighted here too. And again, we have a double amplified energy, what was called the cosmic soup energy. So about the esoteric, about the Akashic records, spirituality, occult, and mysticism or mystical areas. So that is double amplified. So I could really see a lot of people that did maybe taking an interest or grabbing a book or reading an article, or maybe buying a deck of tarot cards or taking an interest in numerology or astrology. Down those avenues, those are all sister modalities, but fit in that same picture. So again, that's very 12th house oriented, but it's also very 9th house oriented. And we have both very, very active this week. Okay, so this is also about art and creativity, right? This is also about the private areas, and this is also covers in about past lives. If you don't believe in past lives, that's okay. And if you do believe in past lives, well, it's very active, okay? This is also the house of fears and addictions. So we might be having to be forced to look at some of our fears, and we might be having to be forced to look at some of our addictions, okay? Addictions and fears are different for everybody. I mean, we all have fears that have to be looked after, and addictions can be anything. That can be alcoholism, that can be street drugs, that can be prescription drugs, that can be sex addictions, that can be pornography addictions. And the biggest one, I think, is probably a larger problem, larger scale problem, is the workaholic addiction. And so that seems to be the most accepted and the most justified addiction, because there's money involved at the end of the day. So that's something that can be a problem for probably a large portion of society, actually. Okay, and this can also be the house of confinement. So hospitals, prisons, jails, orphanages, and this can also include isolation and being stuck somewhere. So isolation, that would be an isolation or stuck somewhere by the hands of another in any way, shape, or form. So that can be domestic abuse situations where it would be a spouse forcing isolation upon the other spouse, or it can be something where you're in isolation in a prison or in a hospital because a doctor has admitted you, or the prison warden or the law courts have put you in isolation in a prison or a jail cell. Okay, so that's just examples. Again, it's also the house of escapism. So avoiding, evading, escapism in unhealthy ways, or just, avoiding fears. And so that particular area of fears and escapism and addictions, that can really, really be highlighted. And it might not be nothing happening in the physical world, but it might be in the inner mental world, meaning you're thinking about it, you're taking a look at it. And why I say that is because when we have Saturn squares, that will be forcing you to take responsibility for avoiding, evading, or just not wanting to take part in something, escaping your fears, and just maybe ignoring your addictions if there are any. That's just a good example. And so it's going to be forced upon you, kind of sitting on the table for some acknowledgement. And it's one of those weeks where what is a problem is going to come to a head. What needs acknowledgement is going to come to a head. And what needs resolving, fixing, is going to be sitting right on your table. You're going to be looking at it, staring at it in the eyes, okay? So kind of whatever shows up this week needs to be resolved or looked at or studied or acknowledged in some way, shape, or form, okay? Okay, and again, this can also involve foreign lands and foreign shores. Okay, so again, that's very amplified because that's a repeat energy from House 9, the Sagittarius. Okay, so the Sagittarius energy and the Pisces energy both have that in common. And just know that the 12th house is a karma house. So this can also involve generational karma, family karma. So any sort, if you look back in generations of your family, going back to parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and you're noticing repeating themes that are going on in family generation after generation after generation, that is something too that can very, very be much highlighted in 12th house affairs or Pisces affairs. Again, that can very link and into past lives, right? So those things tend to be lit up. So those karmic cycles that need work, those karmic cycles that need to be broken and renewed and brought to an end. And when I say karmic cycles, they're usually negative karmic cycles, okay? All right. And you might be looking at children, grandchildren, pleasure, joy, creative expression, finding things that are fun or having fun, and, looking at hobbies, creative projects, and that's also creative expression of any way, shape, or form. And fun can include gambling, right? So that we're talking 5th house affairs, right? So that's ruled by the sun. So we do have an active sun this week. And so about hidden talents, and this is also about being seen on a more public level, okay? So that can really have an impact this week as well. And leadership roles. So, this is like where the lid blows off of the boiling pot, and all of a sudden you have to step into a leadership role, like you have to take over something, or maybe somebody loses their position or title and you step into that position that's now empty, or things get carried away and you just have to step in and take charge or take control of the situation. So that's very much up in there, and that can happen too. So again, it's the pressure cooker with the lid blowing off and smacking off the roof. It's that kind of week, okay? And it's also the house of romance, falling in love. It's the house of sex and procreation as well, okay? So if there is, people not wanting to get pregnant, do take precautions, because it's one of those weeks where that could be a problem that arises that was kind of a little bit unexpected, okay? And again, you might be doing that bucket list thing, sitting down and making a list of things that you want to do, things that would bring you fun, pleasure, and joy. Like, this can also be very sports and athletic oriented as well, okay? It's also a house of good luck, so that's always a good thing, especially on a week like this where it's a little more challenged. And so something else that really can be very, very active, because we do have an active Mars, and Mars rules the first house. So that is about the physical body all the time, okay? So that's about your physical body, your weight, your wellness, your illness. And if you have illness, how are we going to heal this and become well again? And that can also be about the body image. So you might be just wanting to take a more larger approach or a good focus on your fitness, your health, the health of your body, getting in shape, cleaning up your diet, having an exercise routine, getting a little more on board with those kind of areas. And again, this is going to be very, very highlighted around. So when I'm talking highlight, I mean around the face and head area. So be careful, because we do have quite a challenged week. So be very careful with the head, face area, interior head, exterior in the head. So that's, eyes, nose, mouth, ears, anything around the brain. So, and getting, head traumas or cuts or bangs to the head or falling and hitting your head. Be very careful, because we do have an active Mars and it is an overly challenged week. Okay, so just be careful with that. And again, this can also hover around how you're seen by the public, okay? And how people identify you. And again, it's very much hands-on how you meet the day each and every day on the physical level. Okay, and so we do have an active Mercury. So again, that's going to be about short trips here and there. And so we have Sagittarius pushing that. So you're here, there, you're there. You're talking to relatives. You're talking to aunts and uncles and cousins, people who are close to you, neighbors, people in the neighborhood. This is in your local neighborhood or your local environment, your local city, local town. Okay, and some of you might be corresponding with siblings, okay, and anybody who would you consider close to you, and looking at communication devices. So you might be doing your Christmas shopping, and you might be looking for computers or iPads or iPods or anything to do with communication devices, laptops, desktops, those kind of things, like devices. Device systems. And this can link to social media and internet, anything based. So whether you're connecting and need a device to connect or a device to be producing something on social media, that's up there too. So writing and editing is also part of that area. And again, short trips here, there, all over. And something I do want to put out, do be very, very, very cautious on what you say. Stay away from the gossip, being the gossip, or gossiping, especially about things that you might not have the true facts about. So just avoid gossip at all costs, because that's going to cause a lot of trouble this week. And someone will be held responsible for saying things that they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so this also covers transportation and mobility. So when I say that, that can be any sort of transportation, means of transportation. So that can be, air travel, airplanes, that can be buses, that can be cars, trucks, that can be down to walkers, that can include wheelchairs, scooters, mopeds, motorbikes, quads, anything like that, side by side. So that's very, very oriented at this time and very focused. So we are out of the Mercury retrograde, so if you're wanting to buy any of these types of things or thinking about buying or looking at it, we are out of lemon season, so we're okay to buy that kind of stuff, right? We always want to not buy any sort of communication devices or computer devices or large ticket items or cars, trucks, anything to do with transportation when we are in Mercury retrograde, but we're now out of that, so we are a good time zone for that. Okay, and again, the other karma house is going to be lit up, so that's house 6. And again, the house 6 is a health house. So that's healing, wellness, daily routines, daily regimens, organizing, getting details and checks, finding systems that work and your work and doing your work that's important to you. This can also include pets, okay? It's about mentorship. You could be mentoring somebody might be mentoring you. And again, house 6 is a health house, and it's about diet, it's about exercise, it's about health focus. So no, we now do have 2 health houses lit up. That's house 1 and house 6. So it's going to be very health and body and physical fitness and health and healing oriented. So apply that accordingly. That's a different story for everybody. And again, karma. So the 6 and 12 are karma houses. So they're both lit up this week. So we have some karmic work to do from the past, right? And there is often negative and positive areas in each and every house, in each and every sign, of course. And in this particular house, this can be like a little bit of a bad luck, or you've experienced some bad luck that's gone on. That can include in work, that can include health, anything that's going to happen. And this can include slavery, feeling enslaved, or enslavement to somebody or something, okay? So apply that accordingly, different story for everybody. And again, our inner values are going to be highlighted again here too. So that can be money matters, expenses, budgeting, how you make money, your job that makes you money to pay the bills, major purchases, your income, again, however you make your money. But this really hovers around your values, your inner value systems. And there's going to be some brush up work and some improvements and some evolution that needs some review and some redoing there. So basically upgrading your values and your inner values and your value systems. It's also the house of money and possessions, okay? So assets, valuables, possessions. Yeah, and that should cover most of that. And, some of you might be looking at, the environment or whatever's going on with the earth, those kind of things, building and home security. All right. That covers most of those areas. So I'm going to jump over to the health and anatomy part of this week. And we really have, like I said, for the most part, it's mostly challenged. So I'm just going to read out the areas of anatomy that's going to be pretty much an issue or a problem, because we have so many scores. We do have one trine where it's going to offer a little bit of help and a little healing with the hurts. So that can be physical hurts, that can be mental hurts, emotional hurts. So when it can be physical wounds, broken bones, broken this, broken that, or, emotional breakdowns or problems with emotions that are not in check. And so, or mental health, right? That can include depression, anything like that. And this can also include financial hurts. And I think a lot of us in society, those kind of things, know what that's all about. So there is some answer, some resolution, some healing in all those areas I just mentioned. And that is going to be right around, let me see, that's going to be on the 18th. So give or take a day or two on each side plus the exact day. And so that is what we do have going for this week for some health and healing with some old hurts and wounds that have gone on in life. Okay, so apply that accordingly. Different story for everybody. Okay, so when we talk about the area and health anatomy, so what's going to be popping up this week is going to be heart areas. Okay, upper back, spleen, circulatory system. That can be sperm. That can be the eyes. Okay, and our general vitality and state of health. And so when I say that, again, that's going to be taking in the physical body, that's house one. And what are we going to do about when it comes to like our diet, our exercise regime, health and wellness and healing? So there's really a health focus this week. So if we need to improve our health, we'll do that. We're thinking about it. We need to improve our diet. We're going to do that. If we have things that are broken or worn down or need fixing or healing, we're going to be looking at that too. Okay. So that's going to be that part. Then we're looking at the muscles and the muscular system. So that can be repairing muscles to building muscle, okay? External reproductive systems. And so that's in anywhere male or female. Head and face. So I already mentioned that because we have so much Mars activity. So again, do be caution with the head area, head traumas, anything trauma or cuts or hits to the face, banging your head, falling, hitting your head, those kind of things. This can include red blood, so red blood tests, like testing of the blood, whatever, however that applies to you. Anything to do with the bladder and the adrenal glands. Okay. And this one in particular really jumps out at me. And because we have 2 Saturn squares. So this is hovering around the bone and the bone structure. Okay, so any bone in the body, your skeletal structure, in your skin. Okay, so we might be working on taking a look at something to do with the bones, bone health, broken bones, healing bones, or just getting a bone scan, or just wanting to have a better, healthier skeletal system, or skin. So we might have skin problems, or we might be looking for solutions for skin problems like psoriasis or those kind of things, etc., or even acne, those kind of things. Or it can be we're just looking after our skin and we're just wanting to improve it. But there's a focus on the skin and especially the bones. Okay, this week, teeth. Okay, upper or lower teeth. That can be showing up as an issue. So for the most part, this is a challenged area. So there's going to be a problem with the skin. There's going to be a problem with the bones or broken bones or bone healing or bone testing or whatever. Might have problems with the teeth, okay? And ligaments, knees. Again, the ears are very, very highlighted here. So could be hearing problems or maybe things just not working right with your hearing aid, those kind of things. The gallbladder. So we might be having gallbladder areas that are raising, concern, or maybe it's sore, maybe there's attacks, but it's the gallbladder, parathyroid gland, and body protein. And I say that because we're boxed in by 2 Saturn squares, what I just told you. Bones, skin, whatever, that is all to do with bones, bone repair, broken bones, anything to do with healing bones, bone testing, okay, those kind of things. Okay, so the nervous system, the brain, the eyes, we talked about the eyes, but actually the sight, okay, the mouth, the tongue, the respiratory system, including the lungs, hands, arms, elbows, thyroid gland, and the thymus gland. This also includes the mind, the mental areas, okay, so any sort of mental health, mind, thinking. Again, that can include depression, those kind of things as well. Okay, anything in the mind, those kind of areas. And something else, when this pops up, we have a Neptune score. So that always reminds me of rehabilitation. So we broke something, we damaged something, we need to find the resolution, build it up, make it better. So, rehab in any way, shape, and form. So this can include the spinal column, the nerve fibers, feet, pineal gland, telepathic functions, white blood cells. Okay, so when we're talking white blood cells, that can be white blood cell testing, kinesthetic functions, and that's where it always makes me think of rehab or rehabilitation, where you're having to redo, heal something, but with repetitious exercises or therapy, right? Physical therapy, physiotherapy. This includes the thymus gland as well. This also too will touch on depression. Okay, so mental health, mental illness, mental wellness, viruses. Yeah, and that should include viruses, thymus gland. Yeah, I think that's got that covered. And then some people might be looking at arterial blood circulation. So that's artery blood function, the liver, the thighs, the hips, the pancreas. Okay, and we do have an active Venus with it. It's got a square with it too. So the throat area, chin, cheeks, your sense of taste, and the kidneys, ovaries, internal reproductive organs. So that can be male, that can be female. And the female, that would be womb, that would be uterus, that would be ovaries, that would be hormones, male or female. Okay. Blood circulation, and again, sensory organs of the skin. So the skin's very highlighted. The bones are very highlighted in this time zone. And where else? Okay, what else? We're going to have a quick peek. Again, the hips, thighs, and the upper leg. So that might be another spot. So you might be working at the gym and rebuilding those areas, or the upper legs, working the thighs, working the hips. Or we might have hip problems. We might have a broken hip. We might be waiting for a hip repair or a hip replacement. Anything to do with the hips, thighs, upper legs, any way, shape, or form. That can also include like broken legs, broken bones. But there's a focus there as well. Okay, and so something else I'm going to just chit-chat here a little bit about is the Pisces anatomy. So we're talking about the blood work. So that's red blood cells, that's white blood cells, and the immune system, the lymphatic system, and again, toxicity, toxic water in the body, okay? Viruses, the thymus gland. Okay, and something else I want to talk about is when we have a challenged Pisces water sitting at the 29th degree, that can have an impact on swelling, overswelling, too much swelling, abnormal swelling in the body, anywhere in the body, but a backed up lymphatic system, or water retention in the lymphatic system, or the lymphatic system not functioning properly, okay? Again, water backup. And so we'll also link this into the health axis. So we have the nodes have shifted into what's known as a health axis. So when we have that, the north node is in Pisces and the south node is in Virgo. And so those represent the health axis. And so that takes in like a health focus, the health axis, and that's going to be for all of us, where there's something that needs some fixing, some repairing, or a look at, or an acknowledgement, and this will link back to the past time zone of 2006, 2007, 2008. And so is it the same? No, it's not, but it will be linked in some way, shape, and form. So if you go back to about that 18 years and a little bit, that's when the complete revolution and a cycle is complete for a nodal axis shift. So that means back in 2006 to 2008, we had this exact same time zone where the nodes shifted into Pisces and Virgo, and that is the health axis. So it will link back in some way, shape, or form. So if you had a problem back then, it's not going to be the same problem. Chances are it might be, but probably not. But it will link back to the same root problem, and it can link back to a similar theme for the healing and wellness. Okay, so think back what was going on for you back in 06 to 08. And lots of times you can think, okay, that will relate back to something that was similar, or the resolution healing can link back to that same time zone as well. Okay, and that health axis, that impacts everybody, of course, as a collective, but it will really impact any heavy placement Pisces and any heavy placement Virgo people, okay? What else do we want to say about this? Oh, yes. So when it comes to the 29th degree in Pisces, I want to also address, because we have 3 points in Pisces, Neptune sitting in that 29th degree, which is known as that chaotic, crazy, anoretic degree. It always acts out on the negative before it ever planes out and comes into the positive or fix itself. Now, why am I talking about this? Because this can be overdosing issues, oversensitivity. So what do I mean? So it can be you can easily overdose with half the amount. So say, for example, I'll use impaired because we're sitting in the holiday season, okay? So it would take half the alcohol for you to blow over if you were ever caught in the check stop. So oversensitivity, so become double sensitive to the same thing you could have drank about a year ago, and not have any issues. But now, because of this crazy 29th degree, which sounds crazy, but it's true, can actually impact the sensitivity and the overdosing areas. So even prescription drugs, if something seems off, or maybe it just seems like, it's just too much, chances are you're right. So go talk to your doctor, your pharmacist, your healthcare provider, because we are sitting at that degree where it takes very little to get the same effect. So taking a regular dose or whatever, or a regular drink or whatever, can really have catastrophic effects on the body. So overdosing becomes very easy. Oversensitivity becomes very, very easy, and it won't take much to take what become too much, right? So overdose, or we can be looking at a lot of overdoses in the next while. So whether it's overdosing on street drugs, people who have overdosed, or overdosing on prescription pills, we're in that time zone. So proceed with caution, and if something feels off, do talk to your healthcare provider about it, because it might be worth the chit chat. So if something's wrong, something feels not right, or you're feeling off, I would definitely check out that area, okay? Okay, and I think that kind of wraps up that. Okay, so again, we're very, very health conscious and very health oriented this week, and it's quite problematic. So again, lots of times when we're having something maybe that we're not sure what's wrong, this could be the week where the problem surfaces, and all of a sudden, okay, it's a problem, but we finally know what we're working with, and now we can deal with the resolution, the healing, or the fix. Okay, so you can look at it that way. Okay, so that will complete the health and anatomy. And something else, because we have such heavy Pisces energy, and so we can be, this is leaving the health and anatomy, but we can be looking at areas or focus around oil, okay, gas, and plastic. And so also that can be like, gas and oil, like as in the resources, natural resources. But we can also be looking at seeing areas where people are talking about cooking oils and the quality of cooking oils and the do's and the don'ts. And plastics are rising, the do's and don'ts improvements, or we're getting rid of, or we're reconstructing, or we're regenerating plastics, or recycling, those kind of things. So plastics, oils, and gas. And also when we talk about gas, not only at the gas pumps, but we could be talking about gas in the stomach, feeling bloated and having gas problems. So it can be very literal in both ways, in both directions. So we'll sit back and we'll see what happens. Okay. And also something else I want to talk about the Pisces energy too, nothing to do with health and anatomy, but Pisces is fluid. And this week, I would be very, very cautious. Do mind your own business. Keep your nose on your own face, because this can be like where it can get carried away or out of control, out of hand. Okay, and why I say that, because when you have a lot of water energy, water is fluid. Water runs where it's not supposed to be. It can run into walls, it can run under trim, it can run under doors. It runs into places it's not supposed to be. So it has no boundaries and has difficulty staying in a boundary. So because we have such high influential Pisces energy, that can be maybe you minding someone else's business, or but more often someone else minding your own business, not having healthy, respectful boundaries in life. So that might be something that might have to be looked at, or somebody might have to be put in their place, okay? Unfortunately, but that's the way it is. Okay. And something else can be a very, very disconnected and head in the clouds energy too. Like on a challenged Pisces area or energy or aspect, that can be very, very disconnected from emotions, or very disconnected from having empathy for others. Okay. It's addiction related. Again, no boundaries. And very, very problem with being very, very scattered all over the place, indecisive, right? And it can actually have a problem with making big decisions based upon emotions, where over time you would regret what you've done. So just keep that in mind. Like, it can be a very lack of discernment. But on the positive note, it can be very, very inspiring, can be very, very creative. It's very, very artistic. It's musical, those kind of things, right? And it can be very much into spirituality and religion, right? It hovers around those areas as well. So just putting it out there. And something else, I do want to put out a water warning, a flood warning. So that can be floods or water problems, high wind, water storms on the globe. That can be That could include, earthquakes that happen out in the ocean that cause catastrophic flooding in countries. And on a lower, more personal scale, that can be broken water mains in the front yard under, the main highway. It can be leaky pipes. It can be broken water lines going into dishwashers or washing machines, like in your washer dryer room. It can be broken pipes in the walls. It can be flooding in the basement. So do keep an eye open, or it can be flooding toilets, flooding toilet tanks, those kind of things. And so if you happen to be going on vacation, which I see we have so much Sagittarius energy, you might be leaving on vacation or those kind of things, talking about going on vacation. So if you do, be sure to shut off the main water source, the main water valve coming into your house, your home, or your dwelling, because we are in severe flooding territory or energy right now, okay? So that will wrap up our weekly woo for, December 15th to 21st. Boy, it's hard to believe next week is going to be Christmas already. So, and do enjoy the Mars in Capricorn. So the Mars in Capricorn, that's where, we are ready to take charge and we all jump into the driver's seat in our own life, okay? So do enjoy that. That will be starting tomorrow. Okay, until we talk again, stay happy, stay healthy, take care of yourself, and take care of each other. And you know what? Make it a pay it forward week. She's going to be a rough ride this week. And again, kind of hang on to the saddle horn, but be very, very flexible, be very good-natured, and keep a sense of humor, for God's sakes. And maybe buy, something for the homeless person or make a donation to a charity of your choice, because we're getting to that holiday season and it's not always a good time for a lot of people. So probably help make their day a little bit, or make it a pay it forward, buy somebody a coffee in the lineup at your coffee shop or your drive-through coffee shop. Okay, so until we talk again, chat soon. Bye for now.